Furry alien girl caged for being too feisty. Until the human king freed her, and the cage reeked of ozone and despair. Kyle hated cages. His own past was a constellation of them, mental and physical. He'd slipped past the humming energy barriers and the armored sentinels of the Eldrin Conclave, not to free some mythical feisty alien, but to snatch a data shard rumored to hold coordinates to a forgotten star vault. He'd been halfway to the vault's location, a hum of success in his gut, when the growl vibrated through the reinforced plasteel. It wasn't a snarl of desperation. It was a challenge. He paused, gun still hot from the guard he'd dropped, and turned. Inside the shimmering force field, crouched low, was the creature of legend. Fur, midnight black, thick as a winter coat, swirling around powerful limbs. Not girl by human standards. More like a feral goddess, sculpted from shadowed muscle and dangerous grace. Her eyes, luminous gold, burned through the energy field, pinning him. A low, guttural purr rumbled in her throat, a sound more predator than prisoner. He felt it in his teeth. She had a thick collar, glowing with suppression runes digging into the base of her throat, but it did nothing to dim the fire in her gaze. "Well, shit," Kyle muttered, holstering his blaster. "You're real." She lunged, a blur of fur and claws slamming against the field, the air sparking with her fury. Her lips peeled back from sharp white fangs, a wet primal display. Human. Her voice was a rasp, a stone grinding against bone, but infused with an unsettling, resonant power. "You stand before Cathara. Who dares trespass in my domain?" Kale arched a brow. "Your domain. Looks more like a glorified dog kennel, sweetheart. And I'm Kale, just passing through. Don't mind me." Her gold eyes narrowed, pupils dilating, a predatory gleam. "You are an intruder. A male loose within the sanctum, unclaimed, unbound. This is an insult." He chuckled, a dry, dismissive sound. "Insult? Trust me, being called an intruder by a furball in a cage isn't high on my list of personal affronts. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got places to be." He started to turn, but her voice, suddenly sharper, cut through the air. "Stop. You will not leave. Not until I have tested your worth. You smell of freedom, and a strange, potent hunger." A shiver ran down his spine. Not from fear, something else. Recognition. The kind of recognition that came before a very bad idea. He gritted his teeth. "Lady, I don't know what you're sniffing, but it's probably just my B.O." She let out another purr, this one deep and vibrating. "No, it is the scent of a male who has known the fight, and the hunt. You are here for me." He stared at the caged alien, the sheer audacity of her statement making him choke back a laugh. "For you? Honey, I couldn't pick you out of a lineup. I'm here for a data shard. Small, shiny, infinitely less likely to try and claw my face off." Cathara pressed her face against the humming field, her breath fogging the barrier. The glowing runes on her collar pulsed, but her eyes held a defiant fire. "You speak with the tongue of a common scavenger. Yet your scent, it vibrates with a king's resolve. The prophecy speaks of a male unbound who would breach the sacred cages and release the Empress from her forced slumber." Kale scoffed. "Empress? Forced slumber? Sounds like a bad sci-fi hollow. Look, I don't do prophecies, and I definitely don't do royalty, alien or otherwise." He tried to sidle past, but her voice, low and commanding, stopped him dead. "You open the gate to my sanctum. You are here. The will of the ancestors is clear. You are my deliverer, and as such you are mine to test, mine to claim." His stomach clenched. "Mine to claim." The words felt less like a threat and more like a deeply unsettling promise. Whoa, hold your bioluminescent horses. There was no gate. I picked a lock, and I ain't nobody's property, alien or otherwise." She bared her fangs again, a slow, deliberate movement. "You deny the truth that sings in your own blood? Your pulse quickens, male. Your scent shifts. You are intrigued. You are drawn." He swore under his breath. God damn her alien senses. He was intrigued, despite himself. The raw power emanating from her, even caged, was undeniable, and the way her fur shimmered, catching the dim emergency lights of the facility, was unnerving. "Look, if you're so damn powerful, why are you in a cage?" he challenged, hoping to rattle her. Cathara's gaze flickered to the rune collar, a flicker of something that might have been pain, or just pure rage. "The elders. They deem my fiestiness a threat to their outdated rituals. They sought to break my spirit, to force me to bond with a lesser male, a puppet of their rule. They failed." She lunged again, testing the field. It buckled just slightly. "They failed because you arrived." The hum of the force field changed, a high-pitched whine. Alarms. Red lights began to strobe, painting the grim chamber in a bloody hue. "Shit!" Kale whipped his head around. "They found me." He'd been too long admiring the view. Cathara's golden eyes gleamed. "Good. Let them come. Their fear will fuel my release. And your claim, human." Sirens wailed, the sound tearing through the cavernous cage complex. Heavy footfalls echoed from down the corridor. Kale cursed, drawing his blaster. "You're enjoying this, aren't you?" Cathara let out a low, guttural laugh, her entire body vibrating with suppressed power. "Chaos is the forge of destiny, human. It separates the dregs from the true mate." She slammed her shoulder against the force field, the energy grid sparking violently, a flash of her powerful furred arm momentarily visible. The runes on her collar flared. "This cage, it is weakening. Your presence, your defiance, it thins the barrier." Kale didn't know what the hell she was talking about, but he saw the field shimmer, waver. He aimed his blaster at the control panel beside her cage, hoping to short it out. "Hold on, I'm gonna try something." Before he could fire, a squad of Eldrin guards, cloaked in dark, rigid armor, rounded the corner. They looked like giant six-limbed insects, their chitinous plates gleaming under the red emergency lights. Their energy rifles hummed, locking onto Kale. "Intruder, stand down," one of them barked, his voice distorted through a vocoder. Kale didn't hesitate. He opened fire, lead rounds sparking harmlessly off their armor. He needed something bigger. The cage crackled, a small arc of lightning leaping from the field to Kale's outstretched hand. He cried out, snatching his hand back, a painful jolt running up his arm. God damn it! What was that? Cathara, meanwhile, had pressed her entire body against the failing barrier. The collar's runes flashed erratically. "Your life spark, Kyle. It resonates, it feeds my strength. Break the cage." Her voice was raw, urgent. The Eldrin guards started advancing, their rifles raising. Kyle was pinned. He glanced at the collapsing force field, then at the glowing runes on Cathara's collar. "Break the cage," he muttered, a desperate idea forming. If his life spark could short it out, maybe. He holstered his blaster, then, with a grimace, grabbed the power conduit leading into the cage wall. His flesh sizzled, a surge of raw energy slamming into him. He bit back a scream, his muscles spasming. The entire cage system groaned, sparks showering from the exposed wiring. The force field shrieked, flickering wildly, then collapsed with a roar, throwing Kyle back against the wall. He hit hard, pain exploding through his head. When he blinked away the spots, Cathara was free. She landed silently, a shadow of black fur, her eyes glowing like twin suns in the gloom. The collar lay shattered at her feet. She looked at him, then at the approaching guards, a primal snarl erupting from her throat. "Mine!" she roared, her voice echoing through the chamber. "He is mine!" She launched herself at the guards, a blur of fur and fangs, not even looking back. Kyle, still reeling, watched the slaughter. This was going to be a long, painful day. Cathara was a whirlwind of claws and muscle, a dark blur tearing through the Eldrin guards. Armor shattered, chitinous limbs flew, and guttural screams filled the air. She didn't just fight. She dominated. Each strike was precise, deadly, a predator dispatching prey. Keel, still dazed, pushed himself off the wall, his head throbbing. He watched her work, a strange mix of terror and fascination gripping him. He'd never seen anything like it. This wasn't combat. It was a ritualistic purge. She was reclaiming something, and he was apparently part of it. When the last Eldrin guard lay motionless, Cathara straightened, her fur rippling. A few streaks of dark alien ichor coated her muzzle, but she looked exhilarated. She turned to him, her golden eyes burning. "Weakened, human?" Her voice was softer now, a husky purr that still held immense power. He coughed, trying to regain some semblance of composure. Just admiring the show. You fight like a goddamn hurricane. She stalked towards him, her movements fluid and silent. Every step exuded raw, untamed power. He instinctively took a step back, hitting the wall. Nowhere to go. Is this how your species expresses awe, Kale? Through casual blasphemy? Her nose twitched, sniffing the air around him. Your scent, it changes again. Fear, yes, but also interest, curiosity, and the unique tang of a male who has faced death and laughed. He managed a wry grin. Something like that. Look, Empress or whatever, we need to move. More of them are coming. And I'm pretty sure they don't appreciate you turning their guard detail into abstract art. She tilted her head, her ear flaps twitching. Move? Yes. To sacred ground. A place where our bond can be tested and solidified. She reached out, her furred hand closing around his arm. Her grip was immense, surprisingly warm. He felt the ripple of muscle under his palm as her fingers flexed. Bond? What bond? We just met, and you just tried to kill me, he protested, trying to pull away. Her grip tightened, unyielding. You deny the resonance between us, Kyle. Your life spark ignited my freedom. My instincts confirm your worth. This is the first step of the claiming ritual. You are mine to guide now, to challenge, to break. He felt a jolt. Break. The word hung in the air, heavy with unspoken meaning. Break, he repeated, a tremor in his voice. Lady, I break for no one. She leaned in, her warm breath ghosting over his ear, carrying the scent of ozone and something primal, like wet earth and predator. We shall see, deliverer. We shall see what the conclave has truly unleashed. Her eyes glowed, the pupils widening until they were vast black pools. He felt a strange pull, like his mind was being stretched, warped. A sudden, sharp image flashed in his head. Cathara, not in a cage, but on a throne, her fur shimmering, him kneeling before her. Then the vision snapped back, leaving him breathless. He felt a hum in his chest, a low thrum that echoed the vibrations he'd felt from her collar, now gone. This wasn't just a physical escape. This was something else, something ancient and terrifying. Cathara dragged him through a maze of dimly lit tunnels, her grip on his arm like a vice. He stumbled, trying to keep pace, the hum in his chest growing stronger, almost painful. Where are we going? He grunted, fighting her pull. What was that weird head trip? She ignored his questions, her focus solely on their escape. The Eldrin security forces were closing in, their distant shouts echoing in the claustrophobic passages. The air grew thicker, heavy with the scent of minerals and something else, something organic and alive. They emerged into a vast natural cavern, illuminated by glowing crystalline formations embedded in the rock. The ceiling was so high, it was lost in shadow. In the center of the cavern, a massive black pool of liquid shimmered, reflecting the faint light. Steam rose from its surface, smelling metallic and raw. The blood-anointing pool. Cathara finally spoke, her voice reverent. Sacred ground. Here the ancestors witness all. Here the true mate is revealed. Kale eyed the pool suspiciously. Blood? What are you talking about? Look, if this is some kind of bathhouse, I'm out. I prefer showers. With soap. She stopped at the edge of the pool, turning to face him. Her golden eyes held a fierce, unwavering intensity. You are unbound, Kyle. But your release of me, it triggers the primal claim. A ritual of our people. The elder sought to circumvent it, but you have opened the path. She released his arm, her hands moving to the fastenings of her ragged prison garb. He watched, transfixed, as the coarse fabric fell away, revealing the sleek, powerful curves of her body beneath. Her fur was not uniform. Intricate patterns, like ancient glyphs, were shaved into it, revealing smooth, dark skin beneath. And there, on her chest, just above her sternum, was a faded circular scar, a bond mark. She was beautiful, terrifyingly so. His breath hitched. What are you doing? He croaked, his throat suddenly dry. She stepped into the steaming pool, the dark liquid swirling around her ankles, then her knees. The primal claim demands the shedding of illusion, and the demonstration of dominance. Your defiance, Kyle, is a challenge, A beautiful, foolish challenge. She looked at him, her gaze raking over his body, lingering on his eyes, then dropping lower. Are you prepared to face the Empress, human? Or will you surrender your will now and become mine without contest? He felt a flush rise to his face. Surrender? That's not how I operate. And what exactly are we contesting here? My ability to hold my breath underwater? He tried to inject sarcasm, but his voice was a little too shaky. She let out a low purr. No, not breath, Kyle. Submission, and the truth of your own desire. This pool, it amplifies. It binds. Will you enter, human king, and show me your true mettle? Or will you stand a frightened cub outside the den of the predator you have unleashed? The air crackled with Cathara's challenge, the steamy scent of the pool filling Kale's lungs. His heart hammered. This wasn't just about escape anymore. It was about something far more primal, a game she was forcing him to play, with stakes he couldn't even comprehend. Human king, he scoffed, trying to mask the tremor in his voice. Pretty sure my kingdom's a beat-up freighter, and I don't surrender, not to anyone, especially not to a Fiesty alien with a bathing fetish. He pulled off his jacket, tossing it aside, then started unbuckling his gear belt. If he was going into this, he wasn't going in unprepared or unarmed. She watched him, a slow, predatory smile spreading across her face. Ah, the shedding of adornments, a sign of acceptance or preparation for the hunt. Tell me, Kale, when you contest, do you fight with your teeth and claws as a true male should? Or do you hide behind your metal toys? He hesitated, his hand hovering over his holster. Her eyes were fixed on it. A test. He knew it. With a sigh, he unclipped his blaster, letting it drop to the cavern floor. Then his combat knife. He was going in naked, metaphorically, and soon, literally. Happy now, Empress? No metal toys. Just good old-fashioned human stubbornness. He stepped to the edge of the pool. The black liquid was surprisingly warm, almost hot. He dipped a toe in. It felt alive. What exactly happens in this blood-anointing ceremony anyway? Do I get a tribal tattoo? Because I have a thing against needles. She chuckled, a low, throaty sound that resonated in his bones. The pool takes, and it gives. It will show you your truth, and it will show me yours. She gestured with a furred hand, beckoning him deeper. Come, let the ancestors judge your spirit. Let them see if the human king is worthy of his title, and his empress. He took a deep breath and stepped in. The warm liquid enveloped him, pulling at his clothes. He stripped them off, letting them sink. The pool, though dark, didn't feel dirty. It felt ancient, powerful. He moved towards her, the water swirling around his waist, then his chest. Cathara's gaze never left him, her eyes burning with an almost feral hunger. As he drew closer, he saw the faint glow of bioluminescence under her fur, outlining the powerful musculature of her limbs. She was magnificent, terrifying. He reached out a hand. All right, Empress. Let's get this over with. What's the first test? A staring contest? She took his hand, her grip firm, almost crushing. A jolt, more powerful than the earlier shock, surged through him, directly into his blood. He gasped, his vision blurred, not just from the steam, but from an internal shift. He felt connected to her, to the pool, to the raw, untamed power thrumming beneath the cavern. Her voice, no longer just sound but a vibration in his very bones, echoed in his mind. The first test, Kale, is the surrender of the false self, the embrace of the primal, and the recognition of your mate. Look at me, human king, see me, and claim me, or be claimed. Her other hand came up, cradling his face, her thumb stroking his cheek. The contact was electric, searing. He felt a deep, animalistic urge rising in him, something he hadn't known he possessed. This was the Fiesty she spoke of, and he felt it in himself. Her thumb stroked his cheek, a gentle pressure that belied the immense power thrumming beneath her furred skin. The connection, sparked by her touch in the blood-anointing pool, intensified. He felt her hunger, a raw, primal need that mirrored the sudden, startling throb in his own groin. This wasn't just physical sensation, it was an invasion, a resonance that bypassed words and dove straight for instinct. Claim me, she whispered. the words vibrating through his mind, not just his ears. Or be claimed. Her gold eyes, now blazing with an untamed fire, fixed on his, demanding. He felt a desperate urge to fight, to pull away, to deny this animalistic pull. But the water, the connection, her sheer presence, was overwhelming. His gaze dropped, sweeping over her wet, sleek fur, the subtle glow beneath, the powerful lines of her body. Every instinct screamed, mate. His own body hardened, an undeniable response to her challenge, her dominance. "This isn't a claim," he gasped, his voice ragged. "This is a goddamn trick." A low purr rumbled in her chest, the sound vibrating through his own. "Is it, Kyle? Or is it the truth of your blood finally awakened? You came here, deliverer. You broke my chains. You challenged the Eldrin. You entered the sacred pool, each step a declaration." Her hand, still gripping his, tightened. She pulled him closer, her body pressing against his in the warm water. The friction of her furred skin against his bare chest sent a jolt of pure fire through him. Her scent, now amplified by the heat and the pool's strange energies, filled his senses. Musk, ozone, and something intoxicatingly primal. "Your scent, Kale," she breathed, her nose brushing his neck, sending shivers down his spine. "It calls to me. It proclaims you worthy. Let the ancestors witness the truth of our joining." Her lips, surprisingly soft, brushed his. Not a tender kiss, but a testing, a seeking, a demand. His mind reeled. Logic screamed caution, but his body, every raw nerve ending, screamed for more. He wrapped his arms around her, pulling her tighter. The feel of her fur, wet and hot, a shock to his system. She groaned, a deep guttural sound of pleasure and triumph, and her mouth claimed his with a sudden fierce hunger. It was brutal, messy, tongues clashing, teeth scraping. A primal raw coupling fueled by danger and the ancient magic of the pool. He felt her claws, not sharp but firm, digging into his back, pulling him even closer, until there was no space between them, only the rush of hot water and the desperate press of their bodies. She bucked against him, a low growl tearing from her throat, and he felt the shift, the tightening, the absolute surrender that was also the ultimate claim. The world dissolved into sensation, raw and untamed. She marked him then, not with teeth, but with an internal force, a surge of energy that felt like liquid fire, binding them, sealing their fate. The pool's black water churned around them, reflecting the chaotic dance of their bodies. Gale gasped, his head thrown back as the climax slammed into him, an explosion of pure, unadulterated sensation that left him breathless, stunned. Her own cries echoed his, wild and untamed, a primal sound of release and victory. He felt the internal jolt, the marking she'd spoken of, a deep, resonant thrumming that settled in his bones, making him feel irrevocably bound to her. When it was over, they floated for a moment, entwined, the steam from the pool clinging to their wet bodies. His mind was a blank slate, every thought wiped clean by the sheer intensity of the experience. His body, however, throbbed with a strange, satisfying ache. He felt her breath on his neck, ragged, warm. She stirred, slowly pulling back, her gold eyes, still hazy with aftermath, meeting his. There was a new depth to them, a possessive gleam he hadn't seen before. "It is done," she whispered, her voice rough. Her hand, the one that had held his in the water, rose to his chest, tracing a path over his sternum. He felt a warmth there, a subtle energy radiating from his skin. The bond is forged. "You are mine, Kyle, and I am yours." The words hit him. Mine. Yours. The weight of them. The finality. He felt a jolt of alarm, then a strange sense of rightness. He was still Kale, the jaded bounty hunter, but something fundamental had shifted. He was no longer just himself. He was part of something else. Part of her. "God damn it, Ciara," he mumbled, using the name she'd given herself when he asked. "What the hell did you do to me?" She smiled, a soft, intimate curve of her lips that transformed her fierce features. "I made you whole, deliverer. You were a lone star. Now you are a constellation bound to my orbit." Her eyes suddenly sharpened. "The elders will feel this power surge, this defiance. They will know the primal claim has been invoked." A new urgency entered her tone. "We must depart now." He nodded, pulling her closer for a moment, just to feel the solid warmth of her against him. He was still processing the raw, earth-shattering intimacy they'd just shared, the shocking completeness of the bond. But the threat was real. Right, clothes, and then we figure out how to take down a patriarchal society of insect people who probably want us both dead. He pushed back from her, grabbing for his clothes, which now felt foreign, alien on his skin. He looked at her, at the dark primal markings under her fur, at the fierce intelligence in her golden eyes. This wasn't just a physical act. This was war, and he was on her side, bonded, claimed. They emerged from the sacred caverns into the chill, dusty air of the Eldrin homeworld, leaving the steaming pool and its potent magic behind. Kyle, now fully dressed but still feeling the phantom warmth of the bond mark on his chest, moved with a new sense of purpose. Ziara, her fur sleek and dark, moved like a silent predator, her senses alert. The elders knew. He felt it too, a subtle hum in the air, a tightening of the cosmic leash. "They'll send everything," Ciara stated, her voice calm, utterly confident. "They're armored legions, they're psychic hunters. They cannot allow the primal claim to stand. Not with an unvetted male." Kale scoffed. "Unvetted? Sounds like a bad job review. What's their beef anyway? You going off script?" She glanced at him, a flicker of something almost vulnerable in her golden eyes. "I refuse to be bred, to be a vessel for their political alliances. My fiestiness, as you call it, was a threat to their control. They sought to subjugate me, to break my spirit. You broke their chains." He chuckled, a dry, humorless sound. "Yeah, well, glad I could help. Now, about these armored legions, how do we deal with them? I'm low on ammo, and I'm pretty sure my life spark isn't a viable weapon." She reached out, taking his hand, her fingers intertwining with his. The touch sent a jolt, not of electricity, but of raw, comforting power. "We face them as one. The primal claim grants us strength, Kale, and the ancestors favor the true mate." He squeezed her hand, a strange sense of belonging settling over him. He wasn't just some human. He was her human, and she was his alien. Right, ancestors, let's hope they're packing heat. They moved through the labyrinthine streets of the Eldrin capital, a city carved from obsidian and bone, lit by an eerie purple glow. Eldrin citizens, smaller and more subservient than the guards, scurried out of their way, their multiple eyes widening in terror at the sight of Ziara, the Fiesty empress who had defied their conclave. "They fear you," Kale noted. Ziara's lips curved into a sharp, satisfied smile. "As they should. I am their rightful ruler, stolen from them by false piety. You, Kale, are the embodiment of their greatest fear, an unchosen male who, by primal right, now stands as consort to their empress." He whistled softly. "So I'm not just your mate, I'm a political statement. Fantastic." She squeezed his hand again. "More than that, human king. You are my weapon, my shield, my heart. Together we will shatter their illusions of power." The declaration, so matter-of-fact, made his own heart thump. He found himself believing her. They reached the outskirts of the capital, the bone-carved spires piercing the twilight sky like skeletal fingers. Ahead, the Eldrin Conclave's main temple, a monstrous edifice of living obsidian, pulsed with an angry, reddish light. This was it, the confrontation. "They're waiting," Kale stated, his hand instinctively going for the empty holster at his hip. "Probably got a welcoming committee with extra-large blasters." Ciara's grip on his hand tightened, her presence a solid, comforting warmth beside him. "Let them wait. Their power is hollow. It is built on fear, not truth." Her fur bristled slightly, a low growl rumbling in her chest. "They will try to break the bond, to sever what the ancestors have forged." Kyle scoffed. "Good luck with that. They'd have better luck selling ice to a Yethar nomad." He looked at her, truly looked at her, seeing beyond the furry alien to the fierce, complex being she was. Her fiestiness wasn't just defiance. It was an untamed force, a refusal to be caged, to be diminished. And it was glorious. "So, what's the plan, Empress? You do the roaring, I do the looking tough?" She let out a sharp, confident laugh. "You will be my anchor, Kale. My voice of reason, my unpredictable variable. Their rituals are rigid. Your presence disrupts them. Your very existence defies their prophecies. They entered the temple's vast, echoing courtyard. A phalanx of armored Eldrin guards, backed by the robed figures of the elders, stood arrayed before the temple entrance. The air crackled with psychic energy, an attempt to overwhelm him, to sever his connection to Ziara. Kyle felt the pressure, a dull ache behind his eyes, but it was distant, dulled by the strength of their bond. Ziara, however, seemed to thrive on it. Her fur shimmered, her eyes glowing brighter. One of the elders, a towering figure with multiple eyes that pulsed with malevolent energy, stepped forward. "Cathara, you have defied the sacred law. You have desecrated the primal claim with an outsider, an unbound, unvetted male." Ziara released Kale's hand, stepping forward, her stance wide and powerful. "I have not desecrated, Elder. I have fulfilled. This is Kale, my deliverer, my mate. By ancient right, by blood and primal fire, he stands by me as king of the primal claim." Kale felt a surge of pride, a strange, fierce joy. King. He'd gone from bounty hunter to a goddamn intergalactic consort. The elder hissed, its multiple eyes fixing on Kyle. "He is nothing, a mere human. He holds no lineage, no power." Kyle stepped forward, his gaze defiant. "Maybe not by your rules, tentacle face, but I freed her. I claimed her, and she claimed me. That's power, wherever I come from. And I suggest you get used to it." The elder's multiple eyes narrowed, its chitinous head tilting. "Such insolence from a chattel. The bond will be purged. Your alien presence will be cleansed from her." The elder raised a segmented arm, and the other robed figures of the conclave joined it, their voices rising in a discordant, humming chant. Psychic energy surged, slamming into Kyle. It felt like 1,000 tiny needles piercing his mind, trying to tear at the connection, to unravel the bond with Ziara. He stumbled, a gasp tearing from his throat, his knees threatening to buckle. It was a raw, primal assault. But then, a jolt, a warmth flooded his mind. Ziara, her mental voice clear and strong, resonated within him. "Do not yield, my king. Draw strength from me. Our bond is unbreakable." He straightened, gritting his teeth, his eyes locking with Ziara's. He saw the fierce determination in her gaze, the absolute belief. He felt her strength flowing into him, a countercurrent against the elder's psychic assault. He was still Kale, the jaded human, but he was also something more. Her mate, her king. He looked back at the elders, a defiant grin spreading across his face. "Is that all you got, Grandpa? My grandma hits harder than that after 3 shots of Corellian whiskey." The elders faltered, their chant wavering, confused by his unexpected resistance, his irreverence. Ziara seized the moment. With a guttural roar that vibrated through the temple, she launched herself forward, not at the elder but at the ground before it. Her furred hands slammed down, digging into the obsidian, and with a guttural cry she ripped a massive chunk of stone from the temple floor. The act was so unexpected, so brutal, so utterly primal, that the Eldrin guards recoiled, their formation breaking. Ziara hefted the jagged chunk of obsidian, her muscles rippling, and with a feral bellow, hurled it at the main temple entrance, precisely where the elder's personal guard stood. The stone struck with the force of a meteor, shattering a support column, sending massive cracks spiderwebbing through the obsidian wall. Dust and rock rained down. The guards scattered, terrified. "The ancestors do not favor cowards," Ziara roared, her voice echoing like thunder. "Nor those who would deny the true claim. You stand against the will of the cosmos." Kyle felt a thrill, a surge of adrenaline. This was his empress, his Fiesty alien. He drew his combat knife, the one he'd dropped earlier but had managed to retrieve. He might not have a blaster, but he had a point to make. He moved, flanking Ziara, his eyes scanning for any Eldrin trying to regroup. "All right, Empress," he yelled over the din. "Let's show these overgrown bugs how a real power couple cleans house." This wasn't just a fight. It was a ritual of dominance, a statement to the universe. The Eldrin elders, their psychic assault broken, their guard shaken, could only watch in horrified disbelief as Kale and Ziara moved as one. Ziara, a whirlwind of furred fury, tore through their retreating forces, her power amplified by the bond. Kale, nimble and precise, used the chaos to his advantage, disarming and disabling any guards foolish enough to stand their ground. He wasn't just a human, he was her partner, a terrifyingly effective counterpoint to her raw, untamed strength. They were a perfect storm, the physical and the primal, the cunning and the powerful. The battle was short, decisive. The Eldrin, used to rigid ritual and predictable power, had no answer for the wild, defiant force of Ziara or the jaded, sarcastic cunning of Kael, their unlikely human king. As the last of the Elder's personal guard fell, Ziara stood over the collapsed form of the lead Elder, her foot planted on its chest. Her golden eyes burned, not with hate, but with cold, resolute power. "Your reign of false piety ends here," she rumbled, her voice vibrating with authority. "The primal claim has been fulfilled. The true Empress has returned." Kyle approached, tucking his knife away. He looked down at the whimpering Elder, then back at Ziara. "So, what now, Empress? Coronation? Public holiday for yours truly." She turned to him, her expression softening, a spark of mirth in her eyes. "Coronation, yes, and a public demonstration of the primal claim's strength. But first," she reached for his hand, her long fingers intertwining with his. The bond hummed, a gentle, comforting warmth in his chest. "First, we reclaim my throne, and then, we rule." He felt the undeniable pull, the deep, resonant connection that had been forged in the blood-anointing pool. He was no longer just a wanderer, a man running from his past. He was the human king, bound to a Fiesty alien empress, and somehow, impossibly, it felt right. Dangerous, exhilarating, and irrevocably right. He looked out at the broken courtyard, the terrified Eldrin, and then back at Ziara, her strength and wild beauty undeniable. "All right, Empress," he said, a genuine smile finally breaking through his jaded exterior. "Lead the way. Just try not to break too many more things on the way to the throne. We've got a planet to run, after all." His hand tightened around hers, a silent promise. Their reign, unconventional and fiery, had just begun.